Hello, and welcome to the Northamptonshire Carers podcast. My name's Adam Wilson, and this is episode 2, which is the March 2023 edition. As ever, if you want to get in touch with us, you can do that easily at podcast@northamptonshire-carers.org. As well as that, you can get in touch with us by calling the office on 01933 677 907, or you can just speak to us at any place in which you encounter us across the county. And on this edition of the podcast, I'll be talking to Lisa Judge and Catherine James Oliver about the ICAN Service, and amongst other things I'll be asking, what on earth does ICAN mean? We'll unpack that later. In addition, Emma Begley, who's volunteer coordinator for Community Companions, will be telling me about that service and the need for more volunteers. And to end with this month, I'll be having a conversation with Lynne Jones about social prescribing across Northamptonshire, and more specifically, the service that we at Northamptonshire Carers operate in Wellingborough. So do keep listening, and as always, it's always great to hear what you think. And if you're a carer who's interested maybe in talking to us, telling us about your lived experiences as an unpaid carer, or if you've just got any ideas for what we might want to cover on future podcasts, then do get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you.
You're listening to the Northamptonshire Carers podcast.
I'm with Catherine James Oliver and Lisa Judge, who are team leaders for the ICAN project, which is part of Northamptonshire Carers. Hi to you both.
Good morning, Adam. It's really great to be here, and good morning or good evening, afternoon to the listeners out there in podcast land as well.
Hi, Adam.
It's great to have you both. And I thought that it might make sense to begin with asking you what ICAN means, as I'm assuming it's not a mantra you might repeat to yourself as a kind of confirmation or reassurance that you can do something, and it's not, unless I've missed it, it's not a new product innovation from Apple.
ICAN stands for Integrated Care across Northamptonshire. It's a wide-ranging initiative, project that works with a wide range of partners from the NHS, other health organisations, voluntary sector, charities, many partners, all working together with the aim of helping people to choose well, live well and stay well.
And I know that you're both involved in, because it's quite a big sort of or wide-ranging sort of series of services, isn't it? And you're both involved in a specific part of it, I believe.
Yes, our area is the community asset groups. So these are support groups in the community for people with long-term conditions and their carers.
And are there any specific aims that you would see as kind of part of your sort of bit of the ICAN service?
I think the main thing really that ICAN is trying to do is, like Lisa said, it's helping people to live well with their long-term health condition, and it's kind of readdressing some of the issues or concerns or worries that people have had when they have been diagnosed with having a condition such as diabetes, if they have heart failure, if they've had a heart attack, or if they have dementia.
Specifically, our groups at the moment, we have pumped up groups, which are for people with heart failure or who have had a heart attack. We have diabetes groups, and we have dementia activity groups. And we also have a new online group for people living with sickle cell.
It's something that we are working on. One of the big things in the county is it's looking at health inequalities. And once again, Northamptonshire Carers are thinking about a role that we can play, and we're trying to reconnect with some of our carers who don't always come forward. And one of the things that some of our carers have said is that sickle cell is a long-term health condition, and there isn't a lot of information in Northamptonshire around living well, choosing well, and staying well with sickle cell. And we're addressing that, and we are really excited to be working with some fantastic people with lots of ologies in their names.
Yeah. Does it feel good to be part of a project that can be quite innovative and respond to sort of different needs as they emerge or are identified?
I think so. I think one of the things really is about listening to our community. It's about listening to carers. It's about listening to what our community are saying they're needing, and it's about being in a position where we can address that. And it's more than exciting when you are able to make a difference in somebody's life, and that person who felt hopeless is now feeling hopeful.
And I think that's a strand that probably goes through the organisation, because I know that for myself, for community companions, that if you get a clear indication that you've matched the right volunteer up, it's going really well, and that person is actually feeling relaxed and able to do things without the worry that might have been there before, it kind of makes the whole job worthwhile, really.
We're really there to support people through their journey of living with a long-term condition and provide the knowledge, particularly in the pumped up groups and the diabetes group. We help people to identify the symptoms of their condition when things are escalating, so that they can get help before there's an emergency. Yeah. And we have had feedback that this method has helped people, and they have sought help and guidance before they've needed a hospital admission. So it is working. It's
and adjusted lifestyles, and adjusted their lifestyles as well.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And also, you know, when we're not trying to preach to people, but it's about giving that information, and our asset groups are fantastic in as much as we have a clinical specialist there. So if it's diabetes community asset group, we will have a member from the diabetes team there. We also have a focus on well-being, so there might be exercise, and then there's a focus on healthy eating, so the lunch that's provided is healthy. And then the information that is given enables people to decide and to make informed choices about how they live their life, and also to inform them when they're having their appointments. I think nowadays it's about being informed and not feeling as if you're being done to or you're unaware. Yeah. And these groups allow you to become informed and to make some real decisions about how you live your life with your long-term health condition.
So I was just wondering, and I'm sure that people that are listening to this podcast may also be there, how long has your project been running for?
Okay, our first community asset groups launched at the end of 2021 with dementia groups, dementia activity groups. And following that, we launched pumped up groups in the spring of last year, and following that, diabetes groups. So we're launching new groups all the time. Our most recent one has been a Wellingborough pumped up group, and we're due to launch a Kettering and Corby pumped up group in May. More people with long-term conditions will be able to access our groups, and we'll be able to support them and their carers.
So it sounds like it's very much, a service that has the potential for expanding and taking in other needs as they emerge, really.
Yes, absolutely. I think we're led by the strategic direction. Of course we are. But one of the good things about us here at Northamptonshire Carers is that we also raise the voice of those people that we support. And I think, at last count, we had over 20,000 on our books alone, and we have a lot of engagement. And so we can also raise their voices in terms of what is important to them and what do they need. And so that we who do have a seat at the table can ensure that their voices are heard and those provisions are made within our community.
I'm just sort of going to take you back, Lisa, to the pumped up group, I just wanted to ask you to say a little bit more about that, really.
Yes, so the Pumped Up groups are really special groups. We have our own dedicated consultant cardiologist, Dr. Emma Copsey, who attends every meeting. And we meet every 2 weeks, so they are really frequent and really support people living with heart failure or if they've had a heart attack. At those meetings, Dr. Emma usually gives a short talk or a presentation, and the real special thing that we're really lucky to have is that Emma meets with people on a one-to-one basis in a private room, and they can have a consultation, they can have an echocardiogram, they can be referred for bloods, they can be referred to their doctor for different things, all from an NHS consultant at our groups. So it's something that's really worthwhile to those people that's coming along to those meetings. And we get such good feedback that our groups are really meeting the needs of those people that attend. Also at those meetings, we always have an exercise session. So at some of the groups, that's a seated exercise session with a specific exercise instructor. At our Reach for Health venue in Daventry, there is an on-site gym. So the members of that group go into the gym with an instructor who can give them an induction and show them how to use the machines. And they really enjoy that because there's a little bit of bonding time there as well in the gym all together. So we have that element at all of our group meetings every 2 weeks. We add in well-being and keeping well mentally when you've got a long-term condition. So we have lots of visits from the Talking Health team, social prescribing, the falls prevention service. Lots of people come and talk to the group so that they live well with their long-term condition. And always a healthy lunch. We have a vegetarian lunch at the Pumped Up groups because we know that this is proven to be beneficial for a healthy heart.
Mm-hmm. And I was just wondering that obviously we've all been through a difficult time through 2020 with the coronavirus pandemic and the various lockdowns that sort of happened through that year. And I'm conscious as well of the fact that your groups sort of supporting people often with long-term conditions. That did you kind of find that when groups were able to run, that people kind of were welcoming coming along and meeting with each other after a period of enforced isolation?
Yes, they are, and we're really still finding it now. We contact lots of people about our groups that may have been referred or are interested in our groups, but they still have that anxiety about going out and mixing with the community and meeting new people. So we do have to work with lots of people and support them to attend in a group setting because we've been locked up for so long and people aren't used to it. So it really does take some courage for some people to come along to our groups. And once they're there, you can really see them thrive and get to know people.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I would just add to that friendships are made at these groups, you know. So you come along and it's for your health promotion, but it's that whole well-being. Once you have made that plunge, you know, and you've really been determined and you've made it, there's a warm welcome at the groups. You know, it is really friendly, and you'll be surprised at how many other people are there who have been trying to get to a point where they were getting out and about. You make some lovely friendships, and for us it's just a privilege, really. It's just a privilege to be like in this role where we can enable that to happen.
If anyone has been listening to this and they think, oh, that sounds really interesting, some of those groups, yeah, that'd be really useful for me and my mum or dad or my wife or my partner, or I know a friend that might benefit from that. So how do they potentially sort of get themselves along to some of the groups?
So for the Pumped Up groups, because of our consultant cardiologist and the structure of the groups, we do ask for a medical referral. So this would need to be a form filled in by your doctor or a consultant or nurse that you see. So we have a form that they can do this and send it in to us, or they can access a referral form on our website. For more information about this, or for any papers you want to take to your doctor, you can contact us at Northamptonshire Carers and we'll send those out to you to help you to do that. For diabetes and dementia groups, we just ask that you contact us to book a place because some of those groups do have a waiting list. So please contact our team at Northamptonshire Carers.
And there's stuff on the website as well, isn't there? Northamptonshire carers.org.
Yes, there is an ICAN page on our website which talks about the community asset groups. There is a pumped up page and there is a dementia page. The diabetes page on the website will be added soon. But you can always email us at ican@northamptonshire-carers.org and a member of our team will be in touch with you.
That's great. Thanks to you both. And I always like to fit, just because I'm interested and I'm thinking other people might be as well. So it's a bit of a left field question, nothing to do with ICAN. It's just really, is there anything either of you have been watching on TV or streaming services over the last little while that you kind of think, oh, that was really good, I enjoyed that one?
So at the moment, I'm obsessed with Daisy Jones and the Six. I just want to be her. I want to be in the 70s and living my best life. So that's where I am at the moment.
I keep seeing it every time I go onto Amazon Prime being advertised to say that other streaming options are available. What about yourself, Catherine?
I'll give you. This is just it's taking me right back, and I don't know why, but I'm watching Little House on the Prairie.
That's a throwback.
That is a proper throwback, and Charles Ingalls and Laura Ingalls and all of those, and I'm looking at all how life used to be back in the days. So yeah, just having a little throwback and enjoying those pleasant times.
Yeah, sounds good. Sometimes you need to do that, don't you? I think that for me, I found, for whatever reason, not that I'm any good at interior design, but Interior Design Masters, which is on BBC One at the moment. That's quite entertaining. And then generally anything that's got a morose, miserable Swedish detective wandering around in the dark is generally quite good, from my point of view. And Happy Valley, absolutely brilliant. But it's unfortunate that it's finished now.
But you see, Happy Valley can't compare to Little House on the Prairie. Come on, Adam. Happy Valley.
I'm not quite sure what to say to that because I haven't watched Little House on the Prairie for a while. But maybe I need to compare and contrast. And there's.
I think the most horrific thing that happens on Little House on the Prairie is you might get a splinter. You know what I mean? And that's it.
Yeah, maybe life in Hebden Bridge in and that area in Happy Valley, it might be slightly more challenging than that. So Little House on the Prairie, wherever that was filmed, is obviously a safer place than Hebden Bridge, some might say.
This is the Northamptonshire Carers Podcast.
And to give you an idea of the impact that the Pumped Up group can have for people, here's a lady talking about her and her husband's experiences of attending the group.
How long have you been attending the group?
It's about 10 months.
Uh-huh.
That was not long after my husband had developed heart failure.
And what have you got and your husband got out of the group, and what does it mean to you?
I think more than anything else, he's become less frightened and more able to understand the condition. It's really helped him being with other people that have that condition. Also, the carers have provided speakers which have been very illuminating, and also the fact that we have a resident cardiologist specialist. I know that my husband on a number of occasions has been able to speak to her about minor problems. It sets his mind at rest. Mm-hmm. We've also met people and made some new friends, which is really, really helpful.
Yep.
For my part as a carer, it's given me more confidence to know what I should be sort of helping my husband with, but also the knowledge that I must leave him to work things out himself more.
Mhm.
When your husband's going through such an awful thing, you do tend to be a little bit overbearing and nag a bit. But actually, because he gained a lot more understanding of how he should be dealing with this from the pumped up, I now have much more confidence to leave him to get on with it.
That's really
That's
good.
really
He knows what he should be doing, but it's up to him whether he actually does it or not.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really positive answer, and that's reaching so many of the strands, isn't it, Jackie,
Yeah,
of what we
definitely.
believe Pumped Up to do, both the lectures and the peer support and the access to an acting cardiologist. Anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I'd like to thank you guys, and I understand that there are not very many of this type of session about. We've spoken to friends who live further away and they have no access to anything similar to this, and it has made a massive difference to how we are dealing with what is an ongoing situation.
Yes, and it's an incredibly important a life-changing occasion, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it is.
Yes.
Well, yes, it really is.
We might have good news for your friends, because Northampton's Carers is rolling out, isn't it?
Yeah.
New groups in Kettering and Corby for Pumped Up, isn't
Yeah.
it? And then with talk of maybe a different timed one for people who can't get to daytime groups.
Yeah.
So watch this space, and perhaps we ought to do something about letting our current members know about other groups,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
spread the word.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
we were very
thank you.
nervous before we came.
Yeah.
We didn't think, or my husband in particular, didn't think that it was sort of his kind of thing.
Yes.
But we had probably the wrong idea of the purpose of the meeting.
Yeah.
But we decided we'd go along to one, see whether it worked or not, and we've been coming regularly ever since. So
That's
Right.
very
keep going.
Yeah, that's really interesting, though, Elaine. That you thought it wasn't. He thought it wasn't his sort of thing to begin with. Is there any way we could alter our posters or the information he was given initially to encourage other people who think, well, I'm not going to join that because it sounds like it's going to be full of people who aren't like me?
I think it was my husband's always been a very sort of independent businessman, and when it first came through, we wondered if it was going to be similar to some of the groups that we've seen on television, where you have a circle of chairs, and everybody sits and says, I am so and so, and things like that. And we didn't think that was something that would actually benefit my husband. But this is totally different. How you could sell it differently? Maybe push the sort of the social aspect of it.
So the peer support, so meeting new people.
As well.
Yeah.
Who know where you're starting from.
Who are in a similar situation. That was probably the most surprising thing to us. That's the fact that we learned a lot from, or my husband learned a lot and got a lot of confidence from meeting the other people who had the same condition as him. And they've swapped stories,
shared
about their
experiences,
treatments and everything. And I think that's probably been the strongest change in what we'd expected.
Well, sometimes just being able to say, I've lost my confidence, and have other people say, who are a bit further along that road, well, I lost it, but I got it back. You know,
Yes.
it can be a very
Empowering.
supportive.
Yes,
It is.
empowering,
It
isn't
is,
it?
and the fact that you're actually talking to somebody who has very similar conditions, it certainly did help my husband. Absolutely. Well, me as well, but I'm not going through it. So.
Well, we're not called Northamptonshire carers for a reason.
Oh, well, thank you very much for talking to us today and sharing your
Good.
experience.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And as Lisa mentioned earlier, if you want to get some information about the Pumped Up group and how you might be able to get involved with that, then make contact via the email address that Lisa referred to. This is the Northamptonshire Carers Podcast, episode 2 for March 2023. If you want to follow the podcast, then you can do that on Apple Podcasts and also on Spotify. If you want to get in touch with us, then the best way to do that is podcast@northamptonshire-carers.org. Or alternatively, you can call 01933 677 907. You can also find a link to the podcast at our website, northamptonshire-carers.org. Coming up in a bit, I'll be talking to Lynne Jones about social prescribing, but I'm delighted to be joined now by Emma Begley. Hi, Emma.
Hi, Adam. Nice to be here.
Wondered if you could start by saying a bit about the Community Companion Service and then a bit about volunteering following on from that.
Yeah, absolutely. The service has been running now. We're in our 11th year. The aim of the service is to provide some really needed short-term respite for unpaid carers. So that would be somebody maybe caring for a husband or a wife, a mother, father, son, daughter. And often as an unpaid carer, life becomes quite small and quite isolating. So by matching with a volunteer who sits with the person that they love, it enables them to get out of the house just for a well-needed couple of hours, whether it just be a gentle stroll around the shops, a cup of tea with a friend, or sometimes just simply sitting in their own garden with a sense of peace, because the person that they care for is receiving some companionship from somebody that they know and they feel that they're comfortable with in their home.
It sounds like the service makes quite a difference to people's lives, including the volunteer.
Yeah, absolutely. We think of it as a three-way relationship, really. We take time to get to know our volunteers, to know the reasons that they're volunteering, because they can be, quite different. People might be looking for experience to get into work or change careers, and some people may have been in a caring role themselves, and they know how valuable support from others are. So we take time to get to know our volunteers and make sure that we get a good match for them.
And how long's the service been running for?
We're just in our 11th year now. Yeah.
And if somebody was maybe interested in becoming a volunteer, how would they go about that, I guess?
Well, we're on social media, so we've got our own Twitter page and Facebook. But on the Northamptonshire Carers website, we have a page on there for community companions. And within that, you'll find some information about the service, an introductory video that we've put on there with a bit more information about the volunteering role itself, and then there's an online form that can be filled out directly from the website, or people could give us a call on the Northamptonshire Carers number on 01933 677 907, or equally email us at communitycompanions@northamptonshire-carers.org.
That's great. And if people are sort of thinking, well, actually, that might be something that I'm interested in, or I know somebody that is a friend of mine that this would be just the job for them, that what are we perhaps sort of expecting of volunteers in the way of commitment?
Okay, well, the service we're really delighted. We've expanded the service now, so we're aiming to offer carers some respite between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. and that's 7 days a week. So we're hoping that people that are volunteering but also working maybe have some time available, and the commitment ideally we're looking for is a couple of hours a week, or maybe, a couple of times a month. But really, we do need continuity and commitment, because what we're providing to that carer is an opportunity to plan some time for themselves. So we do need regular commitment.
And is the service one that's across the county, or just certain parts of the county?
Oh no, absolutely. We're county-wide. And we unfortunately, like every service, we do have waiting lists. We're particularly keen to find new volunteers in Northampton itself and the south of the county. But we're open to working with anybody that would like to come forward. However remote you may feel, matching somebody, we try and get you close to where you live, so we wouldn't expect too much travelling. So anywhere in the county would be fabulous.
Brilliant. And people can check out at the places that you mentioned on the website and via our social media channels, Twitter and Facebook, etc., if they want to find out more, or just give us a call on that Wellingborough 677 907 number.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just to conclude, I thought it made sense to hear some of the words of volunteers with the Community Companion Service themselves.
I do really enjoy my voluntary work. It makes me relax, feel like I'm doing something to community, meet new people, and I'm very happy to do my voluntary work.
Volunteering has been the best decision I've made. After losing my nanny, I felt I'd lost my sense of purpose, and voluntary caring has found me again. I love helping, it makes me happy, and knowing I'm making a difference by being myself is priceless. It's a privilege to be a voluntary carer that I appreciate every day.
Hi, my name is Daria. I'm going for befriending visits since beginning of this year. I just finished one. How much I enjoy doing it, how happy I am to go in for the visits, and it's just great. It's just great.
This is the Northamptonshire Carers Podcast.
It's great to be joined by Lynne Jones, who's the Social Prescribing Service Manager for Northamptonshire Carers. Hi, Lynne.
Good afternoon, Adam. Thank you for the opportunity.
I wanted to start with a relatively straightforward question, but I think it's one that many people may be considering, and that is, what is social prescribing?
Okay, well, I need to take you back to around the 1980s in the East End of London. It was actually Bromley by Bow, and in that very urban area in the East End, they were building a new GP surgery, and some insightful person decided to also add on an art centre, a cafe, a community space and gardens. And almost by chance, suddenly over a year or two, the GPs were seeing the difference between the medication prescriptions, which were okay, but the outcomes from all the other areas were just profound, that they'd never recognised before. But because they were so close to the surgery, they could say, well, you might want to volunteer here, or help in the gardens, or have a community art space. And really that was where it was born. And if you fast forward to today, the government now recognise social prescribing as an alternative to medical prescriptions, and want to have around 12,000 social prescribers across GP surgeries in the UK.
It's interesting to hear that, because one of the things I was going to say is that people might, on hearing the term social prescribing, think it's something that does emanate from a GP surgery. sometimes as well the term spring is used, and that might be something that people are thinking, what does that mean? So I wonder if you could just unpack that a little bit for us, please, Lynne.
Spring is the name that's given to social prescribing outside of GP surgeries. So this is a pilot that we're working with across a number of agencies across the county to make sure we've got coverage. But they're not actually located within a GP surgery. And one of the benefits of this trial is that we get to work with people for between 6 and 12 months, whereas if the social prescribers are based in the GP surgery, it's a much shorter period of time. And for some people, that period of time of 12 months is needed. We're still coming across many people, carers included, who are still really entrenched in their isolation post-pandemic. And it takes very tiny steps to help those people move forward. And it's more than just signposting somebody to a group.
Yeah. I guess the other thing as well is that and I know that on the first episode of the podcast, I was talking to Mark Major, Chief Executive here, and we were reflecting on the fact that the pandemic and the impact of that in some ways is still there, because there are people that maybe have got long-term health conditions that might mean that they're still being encouraged to be ultra careful and wear masks and isolate more. So I can imagine that it's sometimes quite difficult and much more sort of ongoing work or a longer period of work with someone.
Sometimes we really do underestimate the tiny steps and hand-holding, if you like, that we do to actually get somebody into a group. But the long-term outcome of that is that it's sustained and they benefit from that. So, yes.
Yeah. So I think people will now have a pretty good idea of what social prescribing is all about. Something that may be in people's minds, though, is, okay, so if I were to get some support from social prescribing, what in a real sense, a tangible way, might that look like for me?
So social prescribers, they're not GPs, they're not nurses, they're not social workers, but they are people who are very good at listening to the individual about whatever the difficulties might be. And we cover a range of areas, including the person's health, their housing situation, financial issues, relationships in the broadest sense, neighbours, etc., work, volunteering. So we cover all of those areas and say, well, what are the areas that you'd like to work on? And we sort of draw together an action plan with the person, and they may be very tiny incremental steps, and it may be getting them online first in order to get confident to talk to people before they're actually going outside their front door. And then separately to that, we run all sorts of groups, which is the exciting bit to our world. We have things like dog walking groups called Pausitivity. We meet on a Friday. We meet on a Friday. And some people who love dogs but can't have them because they may be in accommodation that doesn't allow pets, they get to be with dogs and enjoy the walk. We've run meditation and breathing classes. We have chair yoga. We have a crafternoon session that's been running for a year at Hemingwell Centre in Wellingborough, very popular. We have connections with allotments for people who want to just be outdoors and having some space and time on their own, but with some purpose of actually where they're going to. We've got people swimming, so we've met them, we've gone swimming with them, and now they're running their own let's meet and go swimming group. Lots of walking and talking, and I think the benefits of well-being outside and walking has been profound since COVID, and certainly we do quite a lot of that.
Just picking up on that point about well-being to begin with, I know that Gardener's World on BBC Two is not the barometer of everything, but it's interesting that during the COVID pandemic in 2020 and the various lockdowns, Monty Don on that programme in particular spoke often about well-being and the importance of nature and being out in the open for our well-being and our mental health. And I kind of hope that that maybe that becoming more mainstream around well-being is something that has improved since COVID.
We've just got a walking group that runs from Chester House on a Friday, and they have a covered area there if it's the weather isn't great. But they're very popular, and there's also sort of a background, a skill in counselling. So whilst it's not counselling while you're walking, there's the skills there that actually encourage people to talk. And I've had wonderful feedback of people who would never have gone to a counselling session, but because the focus is on the walk and the achievement of the walk. It's wonderful, yeah.
You mentioned earlier, Lynn, something happening at the Hemmingwell Centre in Wellingborough. So I just wanted to check out if the social prescribing service from Northamptonshire Carers covers Wellingborough only.
Okay, well, we cover Wellingborough area, but there is Age UK that cover parts of the north of the county and south of the county, General Practice Alliance in Northamptonshire, and Mayday Trust in East Northants. The great thing is any referral will come into a single point. So people don't have to worry about, which one shall I go to? You just come into the point, and then we extract the postcode referrals from that and make contact, usually within 24 hours.
Brilliant. So it makes it nice and easy then.
Yes.
Helpfully, you've already touched on some of this, but I wanted to ask you how a carer in Wellingborough might be able to get support from the social prescribing service.
The criteria is over 18 with one long-term health condition, and that's a physical health condition, and we've got a long list of ones that are included, so please do try. Most importantly, a desire to take steps to change. That's the big one. Often people make referrals on behalf of others and they're not ready for the change. And then, as I say, we will pick up that referral, and you can refer yourself or someone else can refer you, and we'll talk with you, meet with you, and then just work out an action plan for the next 6 months to say what would make a difference to you in your life. And we've certainly got some examples that we could share.
And how long's the service been running for now, Lynn?
We've been running for about 18 months now, and we hope to be here for approximately 5 years is the contract term, but we look forward to much longer than that, and to be an established way of really working with those people that can't just pick up a leaflet and just attend to a group. People who have got stuck is the word I use, and sometimes we all need that opportunity
absolutely.
To say, come on, let's try this.
You can't always do it for yourself, can you? And to end, kind of revealing that I might be of a certain age, unless I've watched it on repeat, of course. Then now for something completely different. Borrowing the words of Monty Python's Flying Circus, what you've been watching on TV or streaming or listening to on the radio lately?
Well, I watched a film last night, which is I think in the top 10 of Netflix, which is called The Fall. How you could think a film could be exciting about two girls at the top of a tower, 2,000-foot tower. It was the most stressful, tense film I have ever watched, but it was marvellous and the filming was great. I won't be doing climbing anytime soon.
Yeah. And what about the radio? Because I know before we started recording this conversation, you said you like listening to the radio a fair bit.
I'm always listening to Radio 4. It's probably an age thing, and my sons both get in the car and switch it straight back to Radio 1, and I switch it back to Radio 4 when they leave. I just think it's a wonderful station that you can gather all sorts of information as you're driving from A to B. It's quite an escapism, I think, that you're suddenly transported into, I don't know, maybe a war somewhere, or some women's rights campaigning, or something political, or something really light that might be, I don't know, food or something. I just like the mixture of it, and
that's do you Radio 4 Extra? Do you do that?
Yes. Yes.
That's got some interesting stuff on there. Do you do any BBC Six music? I'm quite
no, I haven't. No,
but Yeah, very, very eclectic sort of music, but some interesting documentaries as well. Thanks, Lynne, for updating us on social prescribing, and best of luck with the continuation of the project.
Thank you, Adam.
And that brings us to the end of this second episode of the Northamptonshire Carers podcast. We're back at the end of April with episode 3. Until then, we'll be saving it all for those nights on Broadway. Goodbye.
This podcast is created by Northamptonshire Carers and is a Man with a Beard production.